we have the power to mold the world that we want. We have the influence to be able to do that. And at the point that I realized that, it's like I saw the lack of financial education as a problem. I knew that we needed it. I was like, okay, well, I can create a solution.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Monumental. I am your host, Evan Holiday, and today we have on the show with us Mr. Courtney Hale. Courtney, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, really glad to have Courtney on today's show. Courtney has been introduced to me by a good friend, a mutual friend of ours, Isaac Adai, who was previously on Monumental. That was another great episode. But really want to dive into what work Courtney is doing. They have awesome work he's doing with knowledgeBANK and a little bit of his story as well. And so before we get started, I really want to also dive into quickly why we're here, what we're doing with Monumental, and what is the purpose here, and what do we hope that you guys get out of this. We really hope that our goal with this is to build a community of monumental dreamers and thinkers and doers, just like yourself watching this or listening to this today, and sharing stories like Courtney's, who he's been able to have monumental positive impact in the world and been a leader and been an entrepreneur, and really hoping that we can all have that monumental impact. And also, if you enjoyed today's episode, or if you enjoy Monumental, if you've listened in the past, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on YouTube, wherever you're listening today. That really helps us grow our audience and help us have even more monumental impact. All right. So Courtney Hale, really excited for this. He's a dreamer, social entrepreneur, financial literacy advocate, adjunct professor. I can't talk. Adjunct professor and real estate investor. However, his most important title is father to his daughter ever. Courtney is the founder and chief hope dealer of knowledgeBANK, a serial enterprise that creates experiences to improve the financial literacy of youth. Through this work, Courtney has helped young people save over $300,000 and set over 1,000 personal financial goals. He's also the creator of Super Money Kids and the Super Money Bank and the Super Money Curriculum. And one last thing I want to touch on before we dive in, he has also appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show, which is pretty amazing, among many other things. So with that, Courtney, why don't we just dive in and tell our Monumental listeners a little bit about who you are?
Yeah. So I am a product of North Nashville, a very historical part of Nashville, lots of history. And I think that being from that area, you grow up with something extra where you want to be impactful, where you want to be meaningful. And later on in my life, some of those things came to fruition. I went to Tennessee State University, graduated with a degree in economics and finance, worked in the financial services industry for a while. And through that work, I realized that there was a major need for our young people, and that being the need for financial literacy. There wasn't a place or a person that we had that young people had access to get the information that they needed. And it's a travesty, right? Because of all the things that our young people are going to do after high school, regardless of their background, their demographics, all of these things, the one thing that every young person is going to have in common at the point that they turn 18 is that they're going to be responsible to manage their own money. And nobody was doing anything to help out with this. And so, I looked around for a solution. And then sometimes you just have to look in the mirror and say, hey, if you care enough, you create the solution. And that's how knowledgeBANK started. We started as a summer program. The very first summer we did this work, we hosted a series of 10 workshops for 5 teenagers. And then 2 summers later, we had reached a point where we had no more capacity for any more students. The YMCA reached out and asked us to help them incorporate financial literacy into a program that they had. And that quickly expedited the growth of the work that we were doing. We restructured. And then some years after that, I created Super Money Kids, to target elementary and middle school age students. And that has really become the predominant brand of our company. So yeah, that's the story.
I love it. I love it. As far as, was there like a specific tipping point for you, or an experience or an anecdote of like how that, eventually you're like, hey, I need to start Knowledge Bank like this. Somebody needs to do this. I'm not seeing it. This is my time.
Yeah. There were some things that were out there that I just really didn't feel like it spoke to primarily students of color in inner city schools and Title I schools, the type of schools that I went to. Um, there was very little available, but I felt like we could create a really compelling message that would resonate in these schools, create a level of engagement using creativity as our own kind of unique advantage, to really make an impact. And that's what we did.
That's interesting. And and I completely agree with you. I think across the board, there's just lack of opportunity, lack of education. There's a void, there's a massive void between where the opportunities, especially within financial literacy, for communities of color, um, and also lower income communities. And I think that, it's kind of a, what's the word? Like, it just compounds on itself, right? Because generation after generation, if they're not learning financial literacy and not learning how to save and not learning how to take the steps to financially protect themselves, then the family themselves will never get out of that situation.
That's a really interesting point that I've never really thought about. So like when you think of the meaning of compound interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think about compounding growth. And we get that, and we talk about that a lot in the world of finance. But
Mm-hmm.
but there's an opposite side of that,
Yeah.
to where you can compound your losses, compound poverty. If you think about inflation, right? Well, if someone in your family makes the same amount of money for 3 generations, right, you're losing even more money. It's much more difficult today to find a livable wage than it was 20, 30 years ago. I always think about growing up and knowing other families who had parents who didn't have a college degree. They just went to high school, but they had these really middle class jobs, making $75,000 a year. That really doesn't exist anymore. Like, you can't have a high school degree and make that kind of living today. And so again, if you perpetuate a cycle of lack of education, lack of access, there's this reverse compounding that's happening. And we're seeing that all over the country. And so we believe that Super Money Kids is a solution to that problem.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. Maybe we just created something on Monumental, the reverse compounding. That's a great way to put it, because I think you're right. I think it compounds on itself, and I think what you guys are doing with Knowledge Bank and Super Money Kids is exactly what, a whole world of people need right now, and they have needed for a while. And so could you dive into, what were the formative steps of creating, the first iteration, and then how you got to where you are today with Super Money Kids?
I tell people all the time, if let's say something happened, I had a massive, I don't know, data breach, or I lost all of my documents and cloud storage, and laptop fails, and I don't have anything. I am not able to recreate. I'm not able to do all that over again. Okay, I don't have it anymore. And I've talked to people about this before. I don't know if that's just a me thing, or if people get to a certain point in their businesses where, like, you've done the grind thing and you're at a different level and you're like, man, I hope I never have to do that again. But starting out, I mean, it was, we talked about a few things that existed then in terms of youth financial literacy. I would go and look at all of that stuff and then think about almost like how to remessage it, right? How can we recreate this in a knowledge bank way, like with the knowledge bank flavor? And we did, I mean, word for word, definition for definition, topic for topic. We created like our own terminology, our own examples, our own scenarios. And a lot of that work I did personally. When we first started doing it, I was the curriculum developer. I was the presenter. I was the secretary. I did all of the work. Today, fortunately, we have a team of about 15 people that help us pull some of the amazing things, the Super Money Kids digital program. I mean, those amazing characters, the colorful videos, those banks that you see, the little superheroes that are great. We've just been really fortunate to get to a point of growth and support to where, I can do a little bit more delegation than before, but it was literally create the curriculum and then let people know that you're out there. I told you I was at Tennessee State getting ready to do a presentation. It's a 2-day thing. It's tonight and tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to talk to them about investing in themselves and how you leverage like your social networks, your professional networks, and be able to like sell yourself. And for years, that's been the thing that I've had to do, is to show my credibility, show my creativity as well. And we're just now getting to a point to where I don't have to do that anymore. But if you can imagine having to create content, having to identify partners, find funding, and having to sell people on your credibility, because the people who've done financial education in the past and where that's been delivered, they ain't look like me. I mean that in terms of race. I also mean that in terms of age. I also mean that in the sense of style and culture, because I'm gonna show up, today in my plaid skinny, my skinny pants and my casual sneakers. And so, people will be looking at me, banks, schools, everybody, parents. We're like, can we trust this dude? Like, what's going on? And so we're just happy to be at a place now where we've done some amazing things with young people all around the country. And we don't have to do that part anymore. But if I'm having to talk to somebody who's just getting started, who has an idea and they want to figure out, how do I do this? I say get started on a small scale, test it out, get feedback, and grow from there. But do it. Get started. Don't get so caught up. Don't get so caught up in all of the details and names and branding and colors and like, no, just do the thing.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. I literally just posted a TikTok like 30 minutes ago. It was a short one. It was like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but just take massive action. Don't go through analysis paralysis. Don't get in your head. Just be confident and take action, and things will grow, and you'll also get more clear, and the action will bring more action and more momentum.
Absolutely. Ask 2 people about the idea. 2 people you trust their opinions. If both of them are like, yeah, I think you have something here, do it immediately.
I love it. And why knowledgeBANK is very impact driven. You're really giving people powerful tools. Why is that important to you? Why is impact important?
That's an interesting question. I talked a little bit about just where I was from and how being from North Nashville has influenced like who I am. I also come from a very generous family. I mean, Evan, if you met my grandma and my aunts, man, they're gonna invite you in, they're gonna feed you, they're gonna, ask you how your day was. You're gonna feel like you've known them for your entire life. So I think there's part of it that's just maybe a part of my genetics. But the other thing is we have the power to mold the world that we want. We have the influence to be able to do that. And at the point that I realized that, it's like I saw the lack of financial education as a problem. I knew that we needed it. I was like, okay, well, I can create a solution. And it takes some courage. But I've always wanted to do work that was meaningful as well. I've never been, it's funny, I used to be like a wealth manager, like where in some regards, or at least the way they used to train us back then, I mean, it's all about sales and building up a nice book of business. And that was never enough for me because like I really wanted to help people. Like, I mean, you grow somebody's portfolio, you're helping them. But I felt like there was a deeper way that I could help. And I never found complete fulfillment in that. And now we get to change lives and we get to see it. Sometimes in the most immediate way. And for me, if you can make a living doing something that you love that's changing lives, that's the perfect formula for a happy life for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I want to bring back up one of your lines. We all have the power to influence the world we want. I think that's spot on. And that gets me excited. And that's what we, talk about every day at Holiday Ventures. And what we do is, we get amped up about impact investing and, pulling people's capital together and providing real positive impact for the residents, for the community. You and I have talked about, how can knowledgeBANK and Holiday Ventures work together and create those levels of opportunity for residents that have historically been in disadvantaged communities, and give them the leg up, give them the knowledge, the power, the education, the tools that they need to actually get out of affordable housing. And so I love that you brought that up because, and even going back to what you said about like the seminar you're doing at TSU right now is like you're teaching people how to invest in themselves. And I think that hands down, that's the best investment anybody can do is in their own education, because that's something nobody can take away from you. You can go broke and you still have that education and you still have that mindset. And so I think that's really powerful. Everybody needs to like rewind the last like 2 minutes and listen to that because that was powerful.
Man, you said something else that triggered something for me. The number one question that I get from kids and adults alike is, when should I start investing? And I give people the same answer every time. Like, we're all born with one investment. We're all investors. All right. The
Yep.
day that you're born, you've become an investor. And the first investment that you're given is yourself. You're your
Yeah,
first investment. And you
that's
want to
awesome.
take care of that investment because without you, your abilities, you can't do anything else. And so I mean that in the sense of like health and spirituality and mindfulness, all those ways, but also in terms of your ability to earn income,
Yeah.
your ability to build wealth. And so increasing your knowledge, reading podcasts, meeting new people, all of those things increase your ability to build wealth. And you gotta take care of that first investment.
Yeah, I love that. Um, as far as knowledgeBANK and what you've done to be able to give the tools like Super Money Kids, give that to elementary school kids and middle school kids. Why, first off, why kids? And then also, how have you been able to put that program together and put into action and make it successful?
Yeah, so we start teaching our children like various skills and behaviors at an early age. Like, we teach them
Yeah.
hygiene, we teach them to be respectful, problem solving abilities, um, language, right? And in this country, money is a language. It really is. And we just have so many people that don't speak the language.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, like, all right, well, let's start teaching the kids when they can speak the language, because the same way our vocabulary expands as we get older and better educated, we can do that with the language of money as well. One of the things that we like to say is you should start talking to your kid about money as soon as they can sing Baby Shark. All right. And
I like
so
it.
and it's just like when you start having the conversations at some level when kids are young, they grow up with that being a norm and an expectation, and they build confidence around it. And so that's the reason why we want to start young. Um, we when we first started knowledgeBANK, we were only working with teenagers. and we realized that there was a need for some prerequisite work.
Yeah.
And then, in that time I had a daughter, and she was blowing me up in Target every time that we went in there. And my wife at the time, she'd be like, "Hey, you're like the money kid guy. You need to do something with your own daughter."
Yeah.
And
I
so
love that.
that became the beginning of Save, Spend, Share, before we had the little superheroes. In terms of incorporating it with schools, what schools are realizing is that there's a correlation between um, I want to be careful here. I'll clarify what I'm saying, but we're seeing a correlation between academic performance and poverty levels. All right, academic performance in the poorest schools in any major city, you're going to see that's going to align with where poverty is. And in addition to providing education and support for achievement, um, schools are realizing that they also have to provide support for the whole student. And when the majority of your students in your school live in poverty, it becomes irresponsible in my mind to teach them to be smart and be a good person, but you're not teaching them how to make a living.
Yeah.
And that's the message that I give to the schools that we work with, and also to the corporations that we talk to who sponsor our work, who help us be able to deliver it in schools for free. It's like we want smart kids, but we're not teaching them how to make a living. That's anti-American, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And so people, like, they understand that, and they're realizing that, and so there are many more doors that are open to us now because of this understanding that we're having socially about our schools.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I think that's very kind of parallel to how we think on the housing side. It's like, if families and children don't have a safe place to call home every night, and they have to keep switching homes every three to 6 months or whatever it is, because their housing costs are taking up 70% of their annual or their monthly budget, then how are kids going to even be thinking about learning if they don't have a stable place to call home? They're going to constantly be in this like high stress environment, and they're not going to have time for learning. It's the same thing as what you're saying, is like, why are we teaching people the certain things that don't necessarily actually help them in the workplace or help them make a living for themselves, but we're teaching them about the elemental table,
Yeah.
different things like that, where it's like, I agree that that has value, that has merit, but there's also things on top of that that we should 100% be teaching. And I agree with you, like starting as young as we can, and starting as soon as kids are ready to learn, because they are like sponges. They will soak up things. They will listen to everything you say. They will repeat it. They will remember it for the rest of their lives. And that's powerful formative years that you have an opportunity to. And it goes back to what we said earlier about compounding. Like, if you can give somebody the tools and the knowledge at 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and even elementary school, like that gives them an extra 10 to 15 years to really soak up and internalize that knowledge and take it and put it in action.
Yep.
I love it. So Super Money Kids, I also love the name. That's awesome. And so you're doing this directly in schools, and then are you also doing it online?
We are finishing up for the very first time, a self-paced course that families can actually purchase and complete with their children. And we are on track to have that complete the last week of July. And we're really, really, really excited about that. It's Super Money Kids Home Edition. We use the bank as an instructional tool. We teach your young person the 3 money habits: save, spend, share. And then our extra habit of earn, where they learn about earning money and 2 different ways that they can earn money. In that course, they set a savings goal that's not only an amount of money, it's also what they're going to do with the money. And we teach them that, you want to save for a goal that's going to create opportunity for your future self. So, saving for a gaming system or sneakers or whatever, like that's cool, like because you get to you develop the habit, right? So I'm all right with that. But when we can actually teach our young people to invest in themselves, like back to that again, it
Yeah.
just has a lot of value. They also create an entrepreneurial idea through that course as well. So we are super excited about Super Money Kids Home Edition.
And as far as that just makes me think of, have you ever played the Rich Dad Poor Dad board game, or the Cash
Yeah,
Flow, I think is what it's
rat
called?
is it Rat Race?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've played it.
I have not played that, but I really want to, and so I think I need to get that one. But I love that idea of like bringing it home and bringing it, making it a family aspect, like we talked about, like bringing the parents in because they are the mentors of their own children in a lot of ways. And and I think, as a side note, like an anecdote from my own experience growing up, like my dad helped me set up a bank account when I was 6 years old. I think it was six. Um, and that was like probably one of the most formative, like directional, like helped me become part of who I am today, because I literally got a statement every month and it told me how much money I had in my bank account. So I was like, oh, I want that to grow. I want that to be a bigger number. And I think that's really powerful when you like, I was 6 years old. I was not thinking about money, but as soon as I got my bank account, I started thinking about it. And then, next thing I'm selling candy, I'm selling, I even sold some of my own toys to
Yes.
make money, like just got creative with it. And that kind of led me down the direction I am today. So,
Exactly. Doing that at an early age. My daughter, we did a couple things with her and some of her friends. And so they did a lemonades. They do well, things have changed since some, personal things that have happened in my life and COVID as well. But prior to that, they did lemonade stands, and then in the wintertime, they did hot chocolate stands in the winter. They would get all their old clothes and we do this huge yard sale, and these little girls have some really good stuff. So those are some of the best yard sales you could ever pull up at, and they loved it. They like to see the money, they like the transactions. They'd have it set up to where everybody had their own job, and so there's like this assembly line created for all parts of it. And now my daughter is like, so when are we going to do that again? Like
that's
what's
awesome.
next? And so she's figuring out just different ways that she can make money. And she realizes, she told me a couple of days ago that, Dad, I don't really have a lot of money in my share bank. I need to do some things to make some more money, right? She's six. We have adults some places who
Yeah.
are struggling making ends meet, and they're sitting around sometimes twiddling their thumbs. And so, back to your earlier question about like, why is it important to start early? It's because it becomes a behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we keep talking about, it's investing in yourself and investing in your kids. And as far as like the overarching, like where you see this impacting outside of financial literacy, like where have you seen that in the students that you're helping?
Yeah, I have. We say that we're empowering the next generation of creators, dreamers, and innovators, right? um that's really what this work is about. Like, it's not about a budget and having a high credit score. It's about the opportunities that are created by you doing those things. Like, we talk about behaviors, we don't talk about habits. We talk a lot about your dreams and your talents. So like our most unique gifts as humans, are in our ability to create and imagine and to dream. But we have so many people in this country that aren't able to do that because they are trapped by poverty, or lack of vision, or a number of different things. And so through financial literacy, we're building courage, we're building hope and creativity. So if you're going to be an engineer or if you're going to be an artist, you know what it takes for you to follow the path that you want for yourself, and how to make a living and how to take care of yourself doing that. I was talking to an artist earlier today who wants to do some more community work and have like more of a foundation connected to some of the creative things that she's doing. And she was like, I'd like to figure out like how we could bring financial literacy in with the arts. And I was like, oh, that's easy. You can't be an artist without
Yeah,
figuring
exactly.
out, how you're gonna get paid, or how you're gonna pay for supplies, or marketing, or it's like we're activating a part of the brain that a lot of
Yeah.
creatives just don't utilize, because
Yeah.
that's what they are. And so what we're doing is we're helping people nurture their talents. Financial literacy is just the way that we're doing it.
Yeah, I love that. And side note, we're working on an artist lofts development. So we may need to talk about how incorporating financial literacy into that community. Because I completely agree. I think all artists, successful artists, at the end of the day, are successful entrepreneurs, because you have to be, or you have to at least inform the team around you who can help fill the things that you're not good at or you don't want to be doing. And in that, a big piece of that is understanding finances and understanding, bringing more money in than you're putting out, and growing your business. So I think that is powerful. And to that point, like where do you see knowledgeBANK and Super Money Kids? Like what gets you excited about the future for what you're doing?
Yeah, the plan for Super Money Kids has always been bigger than just banks and curriculums. We're getting to a place to where we really want to expand the brand through merchandising, through animations and digital content. It's funny. So in Nashville, there's a group working on a theme park that has an emphasis on reading. And as I was watching the video for that, I was like, oh, I could see like a Super Money Kids exhibit like in a theme park. And that's what we really want it to be. We want you to be able to engage with the Super Money Kids cartoon while wearing the Super Money Kids t-shirt, while reading the Super Money Kids book to your children at nighttime, and following that entire series. And then when it's your kid's birthday and they receive money from their friends and family, they can put it in their bank and keep up with how much is in their bank through their Super Money Kids app. And so we really just want to build a brand around it that's dedicated to financial literacy, because we don't have anything that exists like that. We have I don't know, Hello Kitty and Angry Birds was a big
Yeah.
thing at one point, right? Like we've seen things just create like this cult like following, and Harry Potters of the world, and but we want to do that with something that has meaning for all of our kids.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean that's really where you can take hold of culture and use culture as a tool to be able to spread the knowledge and spread the personal development and the growth that can come from financial literacy. That's amazing.
Yeah, man. So we're really excited about like these next phases of what's to come.
That's awesome. Yeah, and to that note, we're actually kind of like what the way you describe it, it's like a brand, it's a movement. And the Super Money Kids is the vision, or the what's the word? The I can't think of it, but like that is your gosh, why am I blanking on the word? Mascot almost. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what, actually, we just had a meeting. So we do like quarterly meetings for Holiday Ventures, setting goals for the next quarter and looking back at the last quarter. And one thing we were talking about is like we'd love to have a mascot that really embodies everything that we do, and everything we do in the community, and the investing and the impact investing, and something that resonates with everyone and creates a movement and helps us create a movement around providing quality, affordable housing. Because I think that's part of it too, is like it has to be bigger than yourself. It has to be a brand. It has to be a movement. It has to be a mascot that can help push the message and push the story along, and help people, get excited about it, and want to take action and learn from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's important to be able to speak to who we are, and the culture piece, like taking hold of the culture, is just so important. And that's what we're working to do.
I love that. What about I want to ask you this question because I got this question recently. Uh, for entrepreneurs and leaders who who are like, you know what, I want to have impact. I want to help the world. I want to make the world a better place, but it just doesn't seem to align with my business. Like if my business is not inherently impact driven, what would you say to somebody like that?
I say think harder. um there are, especially like in business, right? When in business, the whole objective is to um create something for as cheap as possible and sell it for as much money as possible. Like when you just look at the the foundation of what it means to be a capitalist, um you can start there. Like, what are you using to make your products? What are you paying your people relative to what other people are being paid? um so that's one area. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to get that deep. You can just say, hey, I want to give 5% of my profits to a cause that I believe in, and then it takes all of that other investigation out of the scenario. It's just, I just want to give money away because I'm successful. And you just find something that you care about. And whether it's 5%, 10%, maybe more than that, it may be 2%, whatever. Just everything that you do when you're giving, it's an energy. All right. It's not so much about the amount that you're giving, it's about the act and what happens in the universe when you're being thoughtful. So that's a way. That's another way. Something that my wife and I did when we first started getting into real estate. Um, we looked around Nashville and were just disappointed in terms of what was being built in certain places, and just the quality we felt like being subpar. And we made a commitment that if we ever got to the point where we were building something, we would never build something that we wouldn't live in ourselves.
I
In
like
terms
that.
of in terms of design, in terms of function. And actually, this conversation started because we had saw some things in terms of function that didn't make sense in
Yeah.
some residential builds. And we were like, we're not going to build something that we wouldn't live in ourselves. We're not giving away anything, right? We're not tutoring kids, none of that. It's just
Yeah.
that was just a thoughtful thing that we wanted to do. And we also said that we wouldn't invest in projects that we didn't believe in. And again, this is me. There's somebody watching this, and there are people who just don't believe that there's a place for intrinsic value and financial value. And I disagree. Back to what we said earlier, we can create and mold whatever world that we want
Yeah.
to, and so we can create that value if it's really important. So those are just a couple of examples that I think people can take if they're interested in creating some type of social aspect, social impact aspect part of their work.
Yeah. I love that. You started with think harder. And I think that's spot on because I agree. I think you can find ways to impact in any business. There's so many ways you can give back. You can give back through your work, or you can give back through the profits you make from your business. Like the group I was talking to was a real estate group, so I brought up like self storage as an example of just saying, that inherently may not seem like an impact driven business, but there's ways where you can put solar on the roof of all that flat area that could provide energy, green energy for their property, and maybe even the neighbors or the city. They could sell back to the city. The other one I said was they could even look at like donating a few of their units to local nonprofits for families that are in need of like moving from the one apartment to the next that need some short-term storage and maybe need it at a discounted rate. So there's ways that you can use your business model creatively to be able to make a return, great return, to be able to make impact, and potentially even that impact could bring you even more business. That's the beautiful thing of it.
I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, just about like adding the solar panels and what that could do in terms of energy for a neighborhood, and some of the other pieces that I'm like, this is an amazing opportunity for that company to create like some differentiation.
Yeah.
We like to hear those stories as a society. Even people who are like super negative and just think everything is
Yeah.
bad, when there's that story that comes on about somebody doing something nice, like they want to hear it. They need that
Yeah.
in their spirit. Okay. And so
Yeah.
when you see that, you're like, dang, I want to support that company. Some
Yeah,
friends of
exactly.
mine they started a moving company in Nashville several years ago. And this is like the timing was impeccable for when they did it, but they were like, hey, we want to have an environmental piece of this. So every time that they did a move, they planted a tree, and they use environmentally friendly packaging. And that company was called the Green Truck Movers. And their company did really, really well because of that, just additional piece to do something good for the community. Obviously, I don't know how many people know the story, but those same guys ended up selling that business and are now the owners of Slim and Huskies, the creators of the super popular pizza franchise. But that was their first company. And
That's awesome.
it's just something small. All they did was they just planted a tree, and they would plant it at a
Yeah.
school or in a community, and it really set them apart.
What about, I feel like, well, let me dive in and say, I feel like we could keep going and going, but for the sake of time, let's dive into our monumental questions.
Let's do it.
What does success mean to you?
Success for me is um, being able to take care of my daughter, leaving a legacy for my daughter, um, having impact on society, and making a lot of passive income. I mean, those. I
I
mean,
love it.
seriously, like those are like the three pillars of success for me.
I love it. That's awesome. What about daily habits or morning rituals that you have?
Yeah, I wake up in the morning. As soon as I open my eyes, and I say thank you for another day, thank you for my bed, thank you for my family, my talents. I just have a moment of gratitude before my feet even touch the floor. Um, some days I work out, or even before I work out, I'll do like a morning meditation to like set my intention for the day, and what it's going to be like and what I'm going to do. Um, and I cook my daughter breakfast just about every morning. That's
That's
my morning
awesome.
routine. Yeah.
I love it. Last question. What about favorite book or book you're currently reading?
Favorite book. There are two books that come to mind immediately. So those are the ones I'll talk about. Um, Trevor Noah's Born a Crime is one of the best books that I have ever read. Fiction, nonfiction, self-help, whatever. He has an unbelievable story that is just, it's sad, it's tragic, it's beautiful. So that's the first one. The other one is the four laws, the four spiritual laws of wealth, and I may be tearing up the name of that book. All right, the four spiritual laws of wealth. That's the other one.
I love it. What about one
Spiritual
last
laws of
question?
prosperity.
Four spiritual laws of prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. One other caveat question to that. What about favorite book for financial literacy for kids? I put you on the spot.
You did. And I don't have one. I don't have one. Maybe that one's on the way.
Yeah. Hey, let us know when it comes out. I love it. Well, Courtney, amazing episode. I got a lot out of this. I really resonate with this. I know our monumental listeners will as well. I know they probably really enjoyed today's episode. So thank you again, Courtney. Where can our monumental listeners follow you, reach out to you, or connect with you?
Supermoneykids.co online, supermoneykids.co on social media.
I love it.
Supermoneykids.co.
Boom. Guys, take Courtney up on that. He's doing amazing work. Also reach out to them if you're interested in partnering with them or helping them continue their mission. And also keep in mind what Courtney said about, taking massive action and remembering, if you don't think you can have impact in your business, think harder, because it is truly possible with everybody's business. And it really has so much value to you and those you serve, and really can come back to pay dividends in so many ways. So thank you, Courtney. And guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to share, like, rate, review, whatever platform you're on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're on it all. So please be able to share this as well with your community, with your friends, with your followers. Please let them know you're listening and enjoying today's episode with my man, Courtney. And guys, with that, have a monumental day.